born in the farmhouse, May the 27th of 1923. Little area they called WWII. Why I went into service, because Uncle Sam says, I want you, and he drafted me. I was in a combat engineer outfit, and we knew we was training to do a job, but we didn't know where we was going to go to do this job after we got our training. But the whole thing is, when you're training, you go by the book, but when you're in combat, you do what you see best, not by the book. We loaded on ship in Dartmouth, England. We was on this LCT, and you got up, still we didn't know for sure where we was at until bullets started ricocheting off of everything on the LCT. Then we knew we was in the real thing then. When we went in, the commander of this LCT we was on says, boys, we're going in. And somebody said, well, it was 5 after 6. So now rather how many was in there before we got there, I can't tell you. But I know it was, nobody had went in the time we got there. It was a landing craft tank, commander of that. He told us, he said, I'm going to take you in, and he says, I don't know how far I can go, but I go as far as I go, because he says, I'll drop my anchor, and I'm fully loaded, and when I hit something I can't go no further, then you guys will get off, the boat will raise up, and the winch will pull me back. And he done it. And he got back so far. Of course, we was pinned down then, see, but as he backed away, they sunk him, 88. There's a ramp that comes down on the front of the landing craft tank that lets you off, and it sticks up in the front so you're protected from enemy fire that coming at you until the door drops down, and then you're going in. Then a little different story then. Then you're in the line of fire. After we got off, it was on a big hill. There was a big hill there, and the sand dune line was about 4 foot, 3-4 foot, and they had us pinned down. We couldn't get out of there. We couldn't. You'd stick your helmet above. They'd shoot a hole through it, and they just had us pinned down. There was no way we couldn't go. We couldn't go backwards. We couldn't go forwards, and so we were there for, and then everybody brought people in, and they would just, getting mowed down. And then there was either a cruiser or a destroyer, I don't know which one it was, come out there, and they would broadside, and they shot into this bank where these Germans was, and they just literally turned it inside out and outside in. That's when we got to go in then. Got off the beach. But you're laying there on that beach, and you can see the 88s go over you. Them was the ones you wanted to see. You didn't want to see the other ones because it was just a shadow. You could see it going. It really wasn't, I don't know whether you call it difficult or what, but it just wasn't easy. You just had to maneuver around whatever way you could to get in, get off of that beach. That was the main thing, get off the beach. And of course, then we was kind of broke up. I ended up with 2 other guys from some other outfit. I don't know who they were. So we went on, we just kept going in as far as we could. And then after about 3 days, I don't know how far we was in, I can't tell you that. But then I decided, hey, I got to go back, find my own outfit. So that's when I went back. Because our troops were all, everybody was on different boats, different ships, see. The one rendezvous point on the map, but they wasn't there. But then they had another rendezvous point. So that's where I found the rest of them, not the rest of them, but what was Left of them was there. My weapon was a 45 Thompson submachine gun, and I had quite a little bit of ammunition, but we used that up. they, they were, we still had some left after 3 days, though, but not much left. Well, you know, when you go in, you just tie yourself down with whatever you can get on them, and it was hectic. It wasn't orderly. It was too many. The leaders got shot up, killed, or wounded, and everybody then after a while, then everybody got kind of organized a little bit amongst themselves and knew they had to go because there was no way you could swim that English Channel. You had to go, and we knew that if we didn't do it, we'd get captured, and how long we'd be prisoners of war. So our objective was to get in off of the beach, to get in as far as we could, so they could start unloading more troops, more ammunition, whatever, and the tanks had to come in. So we had to have the beach cleared before they could move in. You've been around a lot of firecrackers. Well, that'll give you a little bit of what it was. But anyway, that when you had shells exploding in front of you from this big cruiser or whatever it was out there, it was pretty loud. You didn't, you know, because he was just thankful that he was back there doing his job to help you get your job done. So, but you know, we never paid much attention to the noise because you wasn't worried about the noise. You was worried about what was coming at you. It just seemed like everybody on the beach at that time just moved right in because they knew that this people that was in this hillside wouldn't be there no more. That we could get in and get on and get the heck out of there because there was a little ravine right there where we went up through to get up to where we kept on going at. A lot of people, a lot of them followed you. A lot of them. It was well. It was just a job you had to do, and you knew it, so that you had to do what you had to do. And whatever obstacle was in front of you, you had to take care of it whatever way you could, and not by the book. Just our job was, the objective was to clear the beach of mines, obstacles, whatever there was, so they could start unloading. Because they had ducts that held material from ship to shore. Well, they had to have clear paths to get into. That was our job to get that all done. A lot of mines, a lot of obstacles, steel crossbars, wooden posts, cement obstacles. That all had to be blowed up. Well, of course, you know, that was worked weeks to get it all done, but the main part was to get it all opened up so you had a real wide beach area to come into. But a lot of that. I don't remember a lot of it, but how long it took or what, I can't tell you that. They had their detectors that they could find these minefields at, and then that's where they had these bouncing betties, what they called bouncing betties. That was what, if somebody would trip one of them, why then it would spring up a few feet, and then it would explode again with a lot of wire and stuff in there, kill a lot of troops. But my main job was to, when our cranes got in, was to make sure these cranes were running so they could unload from these ducts to 2.5-ton trucks. That was my main job after we got it the beach under our control. Then we made the Rhine crossing. We at that time I know we was hooked up with the Ninth Army. Before we was just wherever they wanted us, that's where we went. But then we got hooked up with the Ninth Army. Then we had to supply these infantry and everything with transport with boats across the Rhine River. And my job at that time was I was hauling jerry cans full of gasoline up mixture for these boats to go across the Rhine River. Anyway, it was on a kind of an L shape, and the British was on to our left, and they fired across that river for a whole hour for the British. Then the British took off, and then they swung their big weapons over on our direction for an hour. Then we had to move our gas and our boats and everything up for the infantry, the Ninth Army, to go across the Rhine River. Then we did go across the Rhine River. We went on up into, I don't know how far up into Germany. We kept on going then. A lot of things we had to do to get up there. But, main thing was to get troops across creeks, bridges, or whatever it was. But D-Day and the Rhine River was our biggest one. Whenever you got a certain area where you was at, you got that job done, well, then you could go back. Maybe you'd have a rest area to get away from it. But sometimes it was weeks and weeks and weeks. You never got a change of clothes or a shower or nothing. I mean, that didn't mean nothing to you. All you do is try to save your neck. You didn't care what you looked like. Only thing in the wintertime, you know, you got pretty cold. You slept in snowbanks or barns or whatever you could because there's always somebody on guard wherever you tried to sleep. You didn't sleep very good because you was always alert. Because you knew that you had to do what you had to do there before you could get to go home. But it's kind of surprised me that we got it all over with in less than 11 months. About 11 months total. We went in on June, I think it was May the 9th, 10th, or 11th, or something like that, or 45 when it was over with. But if made you feel good to see all these bombers go over you, then that was the best. Made your old heart feel good, because they was just no end to them. If it wasn't for them, why we'd been there for years and years trying to get through. Because actually we didn't know what we was accomplishing until the Stars and Stripes would come out, and then they have a map on there. Hey, we're making progress. Till maybe 2-3 weeks later, you find another one. We're back to Antwerp, Belgium, and then they loading on ship. Then they must have knew something about the atomic bomb. Somebody did, or something. They canceled our orders, and we had to stay there and build an engineer depot. So that we had enough points to get out, but they kept us there till December before we finally got out of there. And happy days. But we went overseas on an old banana boat. It was converted over a troop, and took us 13 days to go across on the Atlantic Ocean. When we come back, it was on, well, they called it the USS West Point, but it was an American liner. We come back in 4 days. It was nice, but I was still worried about, we went this far. Now we be our luck to hit a darn floating mine. That would have, but after we got back into Camp Miles Standish in Boston, we got off. Man, I kissed the earth. Then's when it was nice. They marched us up to a barracks. We had sheets and pillowcases. From there, they marched us to a mess hall. We had all this chicken we could eat, all the steak we could eat, nice ice cold milk, and we had German prisoners of war waiting on us. I went in January of 43 and got discharged in December of 45.